Welcome back to our channel, the only place for some of the most difficult to find information on classic Mercedes on the web. The land of Pierre Hedary and his world of classic Mercedes. So, some of you have asked about a background story that explains my love and the passion for these cars. And so I already did a little video about me about a year and a half ago, but it's very important that I meet the requests of the Patreon contributors. And so one of them has been requesting this now for weeks, and I think I owe it to him to give the story. So I'm not that old. I'm not that young either, but I'm not that old. I was born in 1984 in Fort Worth, Texas. And in the previous video, I had talked about how my dad had a Mercedes repair shop. My dad was from Lebanon, and so in Lebanon, Mercedes are still very common cars, and so you'd expect him to know a thing or two about them, and he actually did. And there are pictures of my dad from before I was born where he had a Mercedes. He actually had a 180 diesel. And this was in Fort Worth, Texas. And he wasn't particularly fond of the diesel Ponton's durability, but he liked their fuel economy and he liked their simplicity. And so when I was born, my dad shortly thereafter acquired a 1969 220D, which he felt was a very good car, and drove it for about 4 years. It was medium blue, 353, with a blue interior. And he also had a signal red 280 SE 4.5 with a parchment MB-Tex interior. So ask me how I remember all this stuff. Those were the two cars that left the strongest impression on me. We had some other cars too. We had a 76 280 sedan that he didn't drive very much, that he really said he was not fond of. We had a white 240D when I was 10, right before we moved to Lebanon. And the funny part was that I grew up around these cars, and I would read Hemmings Motor News and read about the cars. And what we primarily saw growing up in my shop were 123 sedans, 115 sedans, a few 116s, a few 126s, but our primary form of work was with 126, 123, and 115 diesels. And I really enjoyed those cars because there was just something about them. I don't know, as a child, I saw something different in those cars that made me like them and made me not very interested in other types of cars. So what ended up happening after that was when I was 10, we moved to Lebanon. My father was Lebanese. He wanted to move back there so that he could enjoy the later part of his life. He wanted very much to help raise us there because he felt like it was a better environment for a family, which actually didn't necessarily turn out to be that way. But while I was in Lebanon, we had zero Mercedes, and I wasn't really interested in Mercedes very much. In fact, all the way through my time in Lebanon, when I would see the cars, I was just like, ugh, these things are all taxis. And so the transformation from me loving the cars to me not being very interested in the cars to me really liking the cars again was highly contextual. In 1999, we moved back to the United States. I was 14, and then I turned 15 shortly thereafter, and it was time for me to start looking for a first car. I really liked the 115 series, and so I ended up buying a 1974 240D for $300, and there was something nostalgic about the car that appealed to me. I liked the car because I could also work on it. When I was in high school, I also had a 73 220D and an 85 300 SD, which I paid $100 for. The 300 SD was a really good car. My friend Dustin Kinnett sold it to me, and Dustin and I are still friends, and he still has a 300 SD. He has an 83. It's pretty cool. Actually, I need to call him. So Dustin, if you're watching, I'm sorry for not keeping in touch with you as much as I should. But the The cars, because of the context of being in the United States and the fact that they were different, suddenly it like hit me again, like a wave of nostalgia. And I felt like I needed to be involved with these cars. You know, I just felt it. And so all the way through high school, I was like, oh, I'm working at my dad's shop. My dad had a diesel injection pump shop. We would work on my cars as well. But I was just like, oh, I need to get a real job. So I worked very hard in high school. I did International Baccalaureate, if any of you have done that before. It's a very advanced program for kids who either think they're smarter than everybody else or, like me, are just so desperate to get a full ride to college that they're willing to do whatever they have to do it. And so I made the mistake of going to the University of Central Florida, where I got involved because I couldn't find a normal job, or maybe I didn't want a $5 an hour fast food job. I needed some way to support myself. So I got involved with this used car dealer named Terry Laughlin. And so Terry and I are still friends today, but he is the quintessential used car dealer. There's always a trick up his sleeve, to say the least. And Terry was the quintessential used car dealer, and there was always a trick up his sleeve. So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave off in the first segment, and then explain to you how I went from being a psychology student who really was trying to avoid becoming a mechanic to becoming a mechanic. And that will do it. In the meantime, stay tuned for part 2. Please like, share, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications, and comment below. Thank you.